We on, we're good to go?
Yes, sir.
Okay, everybody's here and we're ready to go. Miss Debbie, Miss Lisa, can you guys hear us okay?
I'm ready.
Okay, before we get started, Miss Hood, as some of you are aware, she won't be with us. Her father passed away. He's been fighting really hard for the past few weeks. He passed away yesterday. And so we need to be sure that we just keep her and her family in our prayers as we move forward. And does anybody else have anything going on that we need to consider?
Mr. Ingram's wife, Susan, had a little procedure done. She's fine, and just pray that it all went well.
A lot of y'all know he Bob Cloud passed away last week. Maybe his wife told him, let him have it for us for years. Keep that from me.
Okay, if that's it, I'll open us up in a word of prayer and then we'll move on to the pledge. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity you've given us to be here today. We thank you for all the many blessings that we have that you've given to us, and we just want to take a moment. We just want to lift up Miss Ingram, Miss Hood, Miss McLeod, and all their families as they're dealing and going through some struggles. God, we just ask that you will continue to do what you do. We're undeserving, but you continue to bless us, and we thank you for that. And we just want to lift up our school system, God. We just want you to give us the strength, the courage, the wisdom to move in a direction that just could possibly change the world. And we just thank you for all that you do and all that, most importantly, what you're going to do. We don't, sometimes we don't understand the plan, but we do know that your plan is perfect. We thank you for that. We just want you to know we love you and we thank you for all your many blessings. In Jesus' name, amen. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and
justice for all.
Okay, we'll have roll call. Mr. Amaro.
Present.
Ms. Emerson.
Present.
Ms. Hess.
Present.
Ms. Hood. Mr. Webb.
Here.
Mr. Wynn.
Here.
And myself, and we do have a quorum. At this time, I will just open the floor for any discussion that anybody may have. We got, who all we got in the basketball? We got
Alexandria is all, I think.
That's it.
White
Plains.
Plains is in there, that's right.
Oh, actually, girls played.
No, we got
Tonight.
3.
Darn, Jeff, you're
Yeah, I know.
a referee. Hatchie travels to Sylvania at 6, I think. White Plains, they'll play when they play.
At White Plains tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night.
Is that boys or girls?
Boys.
And then
Alexandria plays Douglas.
Douglas Friday night. That's a big
Wayne
game last
Wiggins
night.
That's where Wayne Wiggins played.
Douglas.
Yeah, saw that last second shot.
Yeah. So
We had some success in our wrestling program, a lot of recognition. I think we was runner up.
they were.
And had one winner at O'Hatchie.
Troy Galloway, Old Hatchie, that's right.
Pleasant Valley had some first evers, and White Plains had some state champion ninth grader, first one ever. Sykes had one.
And
That's Miss Bonds' nephew, or great nephew.
Is that right?
Another thing, since our last meeting, switching back to football,
Coach Russell out at Welborn was named 3A coach, assistant coach of the year for the entire state.
Really?
Good job.
Wow.
Miss England's son. Said Jennifer.
High jump.
High jump, yeah. Is that track and field or is that?
It is indoor track.
Yeah, they do it 2 times a year, huh? Yeah. You jump around like a little rabbit, can't you? Where'd you get that from? Any other?
I know we talked a good bit about the virtual learning early on, and we really haven't talked much about it lately. How's that going as far as enrollment numbers? Still pretty steady? How are the kids adapting well to it? Is everything going good with that, or?
We're up and running. You know, the numbers are less than they were first semester, but just a little bit, not very much at all. We were able to consolidate some teachers. A lot of the alternatives here are doing more than they did last semester, and we sent teachers back to their classrooms.
I know a lot. We had several discussions with some of the teachers that were kind of overwhelmed and transitioning, and I haven't had many of those calls, so I think that's kind of trending. And how are the kids doing with it? Are they successful with the?
I think we learned a lot first semester, and we leveled those numbers out. Summer and Courtney worked with Ms. Kynes and Mr. Jason Clayton, thank you, at the alternative school and virtual school, and they've really gotten that down to a lot easier this semester. We talked in principals meeting that we would always have a virtual school from now on, probably. It might be that we have a virtual teacher at every school. We don't know just yet. I think our numbers will probably continue to go down next year if COVID goes away, or the fear goes away and the vaccine works. Lots of factors in that, but I think that it's probably going to be even less next year. So I think that we might have to do it in a different way. You know, it might be housed at the alternative school. It may be that there's a one teacher per school, maybe 2 teachers. Who we don't know yet. It might be contracted. We have some retired teachers that we could possibly contract with. Might be cost effective that way. Leave our teacher units alone, because we're not getting any more teacher units for having virtual. You know, we talked about making that a cost center. Remember when we talked about making the virtual school its own school? But in talking with a lot of different superintendents across the state, I think we'll just keep it like we have it now, where we can have flex units the way we see that they're needed to be, rather than them assigned to a virtual call center and have to stay there. We can manipulate it a little bit better if we just use our teachers within our system, like we've been doing. I think it's going to evolve into maybe a completely different program than what we have right now, as it looks. But we'll always have a virtual component from now on, I believe.
You say different program, what do you like right now, are you talking about Apex?
No, I'm talking about not necessarily the program that we utilize to give instruction. I'm talking about the program as we set it up. And, right now Ms. Kynes is over PASS, alternative school, and virtual school, and we have a lead teacher in Mr. Clayton. That may change. We may revamp that in some way in years to come. I don't know.
Can we look at some data before long? Maybe have a session on that and just look at the success, not necessarily of the program, but just how our kids are doing in virtual period, so that we can analyze that and see our next steps.
I have a virtual data meeting planned for next week for K3. Oh, sorry, can you hear me? My kindergarten, first, second, third grade teachers are coming in, and we're looking at all their data next week.
Lisa, can you hear, Debbie, can you hear Summer?
I can. Next week having a K3 virtual data meeting with your admins. Did you say?
No, with the actual virtual teachers from K3.
Oh, okay.
And all the reading coaches will be there as well. And then once we get those behind us, we'll pull fourth, fifth, and sixth, and so we can do the same.
And we've got secondary principals coming in March 4th, and they're bringing all of their traditional and all of their virtual data. So we'll try and make a comparison.
I think what you're asking is, how did the grade disbursement look? Did they fail virtual? Is that what you're asking?
Right.
Lisa?
Yeah,
Well,
Yes,
we did have, I don't know that it's a large number, but we did have students that weren't successful in virtual and had to come back. Even during first semester, before it ended, we made them come back. And second semester, we had more that had to come back. But you'll remember that I told you that I was concerned, we all were concerned about parents of students who were maybe potential attendance, chronic absenteeism people. And that came to be true. We had kids and parents that signed their kids up to be virtual because they thought, well, nobody's going to catch up with them. You know, I'm having a hard time making them get up out of bed, so they'll be virtual and it won't worry. But they didn't do their work, so then they had to come back anyway. And then on top of that, they became truant, and Ms. Armbruster took them to court. So they didn't really alleviate their problem of having to be habitual chronic absenteeism children. Does that make sense? So the same kids that we had the issues with were the same kids we had the issues with, even if they were in virtual. But as we talked about at the very beginning, and I reiterated this to the principals last week, and this week, we had principal meetings to talk about Power School over at Technology. So that was a good opportunity to talk about some other things too. We talked about the importance of communication. Don't let that kid get behind 4.5 weeks. You know, check on them periodically, and if they're not working, contact their parents, send them back to school, those type things. So they've been doing that. Now, also, I'll tell you, you know, the Apex program has an update, and that's what we're using right now. The Admentum program that we had used previously for the 2 years prior, it was so very, very hard, and we would never have gotten this far on Admentum. They wouldn't have been able to do it without constant help. You'll remember that when we had the Admentum program, when we first opened it up, we found that out to be the case, and we had to open up the alternative schools computer lab for 4 days a week for them to come up there and get help with the teachers. We still have that opportunity for virtual students now, 6 through 12, to come up to the alternative school, to the virtual lab, if you want to call that, and they can still get help up there. But again, those parents and those children that have those habitual problems are the same ones we're seeing over and over again. They're the ones not coming for help. They're the ones not doing any work. And so we really need to see them face to face so that they can get their education.
Sure. And I guess that's the kind of data I was looking at, so that we could begin to see, okay, is it just a problem we would have anyway with face to face, or are these issues where we need to throw more resources at the virtual school so that we can be sure that it's as successful as we can be. I know that their success is multi-pronged, and honestly, I know that the commitment from parents is a lot greater when they're in a virtual school environment. So I guess it's just more, are there ways that we can even train parents better? Are there things we can do to help parents prepare and put more resources in their hands so that they can help those students be successful? I'm like you. I don't see virtual completely going away. I think that's always going to be a part, and I think it's important that it is a part. But not everybody's a candidate for virtual.
I think there were some kids and maybe some parents, unfortunately, that thought virtual might be an easier option, and that's not necessarily the case.
Sure.
It's a constant. I mean, you're at school 7.5 hours a day, and you think that you can do virtual an hour a day and be caught up. That's not going to happen. Now, unfortunately, when we had our credit recovery program, that might have sent the wrong signal. But you have to remember, credit recovery means that you failed that course with a 40 or below. So you were there and you did something in the course. This is complete credit advancement the first time you've ever seen it. And there's a difference there. Virtual, in that respect, it's a 6-hour day. virtual and credit recovery aspect might not be. It might be 30 minutes, and it was an easier program. That's why Apex had to upgrade for it to be valid. Number one, for it to be accredited, and number two, for it to be NCAA approved. So, and it has to have a teacher tied with it to meet the accreditation purposes. Previously, it was a credit recovery program, which meant that the child had already had that lesson, that class taught to them in person, and they didn't pass it. So that threw some people for a loop, thinking it was going to be easy, and it's not.
Okay. Can you, you said something about Apex has an update? We've already gotten it, or they're coming out with one?
No, it had an upgrade when we purchased it.
Okay.
That's when we implemented it, and that's why I chose to put Apex in there instead of Admentum. In the past, we ran both programs, but after Apex got the upgrade, now it's still not as. Let me say this: if your kid passed Admentum, I don't think they'd have any problem with college, because it was that tough.
Gotcha.
Apex is not as tough, but it has rigor to it. They've got to do something to earn that grade. And yes, there are projects that have to be done in Apex. They have to finish their project, take a picture of it and upload it, or they have to do it in Word or another document, Excel, and then upload it for the teacher to preview. That's part of the program. So it's hard to for some people to comprehend that this needs to be as rigorous as face-to-face. And in the same vein, we've had several comments about, hey, my kid that's going to school is not doing what the kids that are required to do in Apex are having to do. I have several thoughts on that, but I can't control that. I don't know if the teacher at face-to-face is explaining it in a better way, has more opportunities to reach the child through visual aids during the class time, has time to walk around and remediate and touch that child, their paper and say, hey, this is what you need to do here, more one-to-one time. That may make the difference. I don't know. But it's a program that has to be worked to fruition or it's not valid.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You kind of touched on my next question there, because I've heard that same thing, that some parents feel like the virtual program is a little bit tougher. So whether or not it's the same material or whether or not that one-to-one is better, is it pretty much following the same curriculum? Are we working through the same things in the class as we are virtually? Well,
the content standards are the same. Now, in some of the electives, they have a different way that they're teaching that elective. But the content areas, math, English, science, and social studies, the content standards match up what the state of Alabama requires. It may not be in the sequence that we give it, but it's still there. Does that make sense? My answer, unfortunately, to folks that have been upset about Apex or wanting me to water it down or change it, I said, you have an option. You can come back to school. We will take you. If you're having trouble, we'll take you. So, I don't know what else I can do. I can't change the content of the standards at school when people say that teacher's too rough or too tough, or, I really can't change that one.
That's kind of an unfair statement there, though. I mean, I've got one that's in virtual, and I would love to send her back, but I can't, because the curriculum is different. Just to answer your question, is different. Either she's somewhere different or whatever. Not only is that not fair to the student, but it's not fair to the teacher that's going to have to go back and do some reteaching and stuff. So I think we've got a lot of. I think it's a bigger issue here than probably what most realize. And it seems like at the elementary side, we're having a little bit more success than we are at the high school level. So have you guys ran data from a failure rate, or do we know we've been in this for 6 months? Have we started running any data to see where we stand, or?
Apex grades on a semester, so it's almost impossible to pull 9 weeks grades, but we do have principals and counselors right now filling in for us a document that shows course failures for first semester. So they're working on that now. They'll bring that with them on the 4th when we meet.
So when you're talking about, I don't have one virtual, so I'm just catching bits and pieces here, and you don't know which of those kids are truly trying and which aren't. So from your standpoint, when you're talking about your daughter, her not being able to go back, is that because we're doing the same curriculum, or we're doing the same points, but we may not be in the same spot in the curriculum?
Possibly.
Like,
That's pretty much just electives though. The core concept, context,
It's misaligned. I mean, she would fail if I were to send her back right now. She'd fail. And where she's a B student right now. You know, I want her back in school.
Yeah.
I wanted her in school the whole time. But from when we started this thing, from an athletic standpoint, and you know, with the contract tracing and things like that, you know, a lot of your ball players kind of went virtual to keep from losing the season, so to speak, because they had one that, you know, went through it last year. And Mr. Emerald, his grandson, lost his. Yeah, Mr. Senior season.
Well, let me say this. Summer and Courtney, you correct me. We haven't had any calls that said their kids that came back from first semester are failing. We haven't had any complaints about, hey, my kid doesn't know where they are, they can't function. We haven't had any. The ones that failed that we're doing research on didn't do anything. They didn't do anything.
Well, if you go into virtual thinking it's only an hour a day,
That's right.
You're wrong, because it's tough. You know, she spends more time studying virtually than she would if she was at school, I think. Of course, I'm at work. I just have to hear about it when I get home.
well, I know our couple of virtual weeks where we were trying, you know, in our house, trying to do 5 different grade levels worth of work. And after working all day and then coming home, you know, because the elementary student, you can't just sit them on a computer and be, you know, and it be finished. So I can't imagine doing it every day. There's no, I mean, if my kids came home and said they want to go
Well,
work.
Tuesday when we were out, Grant answered the phone on one of the many calls that we got. 3 of them from me, called my own number. He was crying when he got off the phone because he said, Daddy, don't make us do virtual. That's how upset he was about it. And he's 9, he'll be 10 Monday. But he was so upset that he thought he was going to have to do a whole lot of virtual work. He likes to be at school. He likes to be with kids. But he was distraught because he's going to be upset if he watches this. Telling on him, but he was very upset.
Well, I think the main thing that we want to make sure, if you guys are running the data, you know, it's not, and of course we knew this, but everybody's new at it. We're only I won't say 6 months, probably 8 months in. We just want to make sure that we're doing the right by our teachers, our students, our parents, you know, and if we need to tweak this system, I mean, we need to be tweaking it, because why from an elementary standpoint are we having a little bit more success than we are at the high school level?
Well, in elementary, we have a teacher devoted to that class, so it's a lot easier when all she does all day is virtual.
She's teaching every component.
You know,
of that
she's
class.
doing every bit of it, so she can Zoom with kids.
Well, that right, let me stop you right there. Can we do that at the high school level?
Not to be accredited.
Couldn't this year.
It's difficult, but you can't
Pull
pull a
unit.
unit because if you've got a high school that's got, let's say 4 math teachers, and they're a 7-12 high school, they don't just have 4 math courses that they teach. It's not like 9th grade math, 10th grade math. They've got tons of math
geometry.
courses, so you can't pull a teacher and leave a 7-12 school with 3 math teachers. It wouldn't be possible to get in every math course that has to be taught. And so you can't really pull units from, so what's happened in the high school is we have essentially facilitators who log in, they make sure the kids are completing their work, but there's not, I'm not instructing you guys on what you're about to do on the computer. I'm making sure you did. Yeah.
And mine in K-5, they're actually posting videos of themselves teaching that lesson, or, you know, they can do phone calls, they can do a small group virtually, so it's just a totally different
Play
setup.
that lesson back.
Well, let me give you an example. I met with a parent for 3 hours the other night. And, it's an elective class. So I talked with a teacher that's teaching virtual, and I said, how many classes are you teaching? What all are you teaching? He says, I'm teaching art, I'm teaching geometry, I'm teaching science. I say teaching, he's a facilitator over all those subjects.
Right.
It was 5, I can only remember those 3 or 4. It was 5 different subjects that he's a facilitator over.
Right.
And me seeing the parent bringing that to me and me seeing what they have to go through and spending the time that they spend on it, and then them reaching out to the facilitator, it goes back to what I was saying earlier about, you know, it's stressful times for everybody. And this is, I hope that this is what we're looking into, and this is what the data is going to show us, is, you know, the student, and she's top 5 in her class, and I've had 3 out of the top 10 that have reached out talking about this one subject. So the student has reached out to the teacher, the facilitator, and you know, no disrespect to her, but I mean, she don't teach business.
Right.
Okay? So she really don't know how to help.
Right.
And it's not against her, but
Yeah.
so then the child has to go back and set up a meeting with the local business teachers. And when she goes and sits down in their planning time, which goes back to more stress on the local, you know, if we were to send kids back to school. So she goes and sits down with the business teachers to help out with this project. You know, they're saying, hey, this is way above a high school level. So I guess what, you know, are we doing, have we had enough time? Probably not, to be able to look into each subject. And I see what you're saying as far as you've got somebody at the elementary side, we can't do that at the high school side, which goes into the units, and at most schools we're already over units, right? So
Does losing that flex, and I know this is not what you want, but does losing that flexibility and creating it as its own school, does that fix that problem? Not that that's the best solution, but is that a solution for that?
So if we did that, we don't necessarily get more units for the system. It pulls units from each school, because let's say Welborn High School, if they had 75 kids that went virtual, that takes 75 kids off of Welborn's roster. So now they may lose a unit there because they don't have as many kids at Welborn. So,
but on the virtual side of things, then it gives them a one-on-one instructor like the elementary
Right.
side.
It just changes everything else.
and then you gotta look at
Classifications,
classification. I mean,
everything changes. Your student enrollment drops, everything changes. So it's, you know, it's a trickle down effect either way you go.
but that may, you guys are pulling it out, right?
We are.
And you're gonna have a meeting. And I was thinking of this beforehand. I would like for the board to have maybe once a quarter to possibly schedule in a work session. Just, you know, and I think this would be a good work session topic discussion. Do y'all agree? I know Jeff does.
I think that we're gonna have to really focus on is, we're gonna get through this eventually, and everybody will be back in school. I'm concerned about those kids that did not get it. And it could be 20% of our students that just, you know, did what they did on the computer to pass. Because if it's a question, what they do, they take their phone out and find an answer to it. I mean, how much real learning is going on that they can transfer those skills to the 8th grade?
And that's where the projects come into effect, and that's what's got them all rattled, because they want to pull their phone out, but they can't pull it out to show their work on a project. And
But I mean,
that's
I'm
what
just
makes
talking
it
about
accredited,
if
see?
it was math, but whatever it was, learning those procedures to get to that next
Well,
grade.
this is what we've been talking to the principals about this week and last week. You know, if we don't, exactly what you say, if we don't get smart, then we're gonna have a generation left behind.
Exactly.
And, we're not really concerned about the test scores this year. I mean, we really can't be at this point in time, but in 2 years, we're really going to see this, and it's going we're not getting
You see, your K-5,
accountability.
yeah, your K-5 will have time to catch up. But an 8th grader that doesn't get it and moves to the 9th and the 10th, they're gonna be, I'm telling you, they're gonna be lost.
Well, I had somebody tell me the other day, you know, a year with a bad teacher, you lose what, 2 years? How's this gonna look? You know, so. Of course, we could talk about it.
Well, I mean, I'll leave it alone. I didn't realize it was gonna get as big as it did, but, I think, you know, it is important though that we discuss this because like you said, it's not going away. And a point that you've made many times is our enrollment. And I'm gonna tell you, I really feel like this virtual program, us getting it right to where kids can learn and still be, you know, have that option is gonna be crucial for our enrollment going forward. It's some of these kids that would go into another program elsewhere that will stay here in our system because we have it nailed down and we got it figured out.
Or a homeschooler that wants to come and said, hey, I heard all this great stuff here, and they want to play sports, they've got to come, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, if we can market that somehow.
Ms. Armbruster sent a letter to every homeschooler inviting them back.
How many letters did you send out, do you know?
It was last fall, it was over 300.
Wow.
But back to Toby's point, if we get them in here and they're stressed out to the max and they feel like,
They're
you
gonna
know,
go
we
back.
don't have it right, then they're gonna go right back. So it's important that we get it right before they get here.
Well, this is our opportunity, Jeff and some, who all went down to Pike County with us? You? Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm looking forward to those systems coming to Calhoun County. What, I wanna know what you're doing. I wanna know what you're doing. But you know, and this is an opportunity for us to be that.
And we are, folks. I want you to know that we are adjusting this as we go. We're building the ship as we sail it. First semester, you know, our teachers, every teacher and every administrator, they need to be patted on the back because I can't explain to you what the stress level is that they had to deal with. And the virtual people too. I mean, they had 2,600 kids that they had to get in a class, in a computer, and hand out Chromebooks. It has been extremely frustrating. It's like somebody asked me not too long ago, they said something about the lunches. I said, well, we're not getting any hot breakfast. And I said, well, look, folks, I'm not saying one thing to a CMP worker. Do you realize that they are having to stand there and make trays, wrap them in saran wrap, and then take them to every class? No, it's not going to be hot, but guess what? It's free. So that's where we are. We just need to, and I'm with you, and we are moving that way. We are fine-tuning this. It's going to get better. But I think that's important for us to realize what these people have had to deal with since we started school.
Oh, it's at every level.
This is just a suggestion. What if we pull together administrators, teachers, parents, and even some students? So maybe just, okay, this is what I'm facing, this is what I'm facing, this is the reason I'm just thinking about to get some conversation going about maybe a direction. You know, a lot of times somebody sitting out there has got an answer, we just don't ask them for it. You know, I mean, I don't know if that's doable, but just bring, you know, some from Pleasant Valley. I mean, if it's 20 people, you know, and just come together and just say, okay, what's the problems? You know, I mean, that's just a thought, you know, to get
Well,
some.
I think it's starting, if Mr. Turner and Ms. Wilmer and Ms. Davis, they're starting, or Ms. Armbruster, Ms. whoever the team is getting all this data together, I think that is a start. And then, like you said, just reach out to communities.
You know, one of the big things that most of us ran on was incorporating the community into, you know, as a stakeholder into what we're going to do here. That was sort of where I'm coming from, is just, you know, just brainstorm a little bit, you know, just see where it, no, this is not any good, you know, but what if it is, you know, it would take 2 hours or whatever, some morning to do it, you know, and I think parents would appreciate that, you know.
I want you to know that everything you've mentioned has already been talked about in our administrative group, and we're working on it. I mean, we're we're not just putting this out there and not checking on it and not trying to fine tune it and not trying to improve it. This is a constant thing. So I want you to know that. This is not just been put out there, we've not revisited it. We're constant. But I will say this, we have had very few complaints. Right, ladies? Most of the complaints is about, hey, how come my kid can't come back to virtual? Or how come my kid can't come back to school? And we say, let them come back. But we put deadlines out there, but then we still let them come back. So it's been constant.
Switching gears just a little bit, and I'll take I know we need to get on, but the kids that we sort of lost, I think you quoted 200 or so.
Well, we got it down lower than that, didn't we, Ms. Armbruster?
Yes, sir. We did get the numbers back, we get some of the numbers back up. It was a little bit over 300 at first. And we got it a little bit lower than that. I wanna say it was more so in the twos after we got some of those back.
But we found out where every one of those went, except about, what, 20?
If that.
If that, 10 or 20.
Okay.
Because what I wanted them to do is, I wanna know where that kid is. Okay, he's not at your school, he was here
You
last year.
got to, don't you?
Yes,
Part of the
well, in the high school,
state
especially.
board, yeah, you have to know where they're at.
So we found them, all but less than 20, she said, so that's great.
Of that 300, how many came back here? Do you just?
I wanna say when I did the presentation for y'all at the beginning of the semester, I wanna say it was like maybe 340, 350, and I think we got down to like 280 or something like that.
That physically came back to Calhoun County Schools?
Well, I wanna say maybe like 60 or 70 then.
Okay.
I mean, we were still in the twos, I wanna say.
We got it down to 280, knowing where they were, right?
Right.
What you're saying? But remember,
And about 60 came back to our system?
Yeah.
Okay.
historically, we have lost anywhere from 185 to 250 every year.
I know.
For the last, I did the job 8 years, and that's how many we lost on an average every year. So, as it relates to COVID, hey, we did pretty good, you know. But that's all I'll say about that.
Anybody else?
We left out sax. It's another one, sax boys are playing tomorrow night too.
Wow.
They're playing 20 games.
I'm sorry, I realize that now that you brought it to my attention. Who got you? So who reminded you?
It just hit me all of a sudden, I was thinking, how did I leave out one?
We got
30 minutes.
Oh, hey.
We got a local basketball field.
Well, I didn't want to be
It's right, of course,
Y'all
the league.
y'all were over my head in that discussion.
Hey, you doing better, 30 minutes, it takes me an hour sometimes.
Where am I going?
Okay, if nobody else, I thank you all for your comments. And thank you, Mr. Turner, Ms. Wilder, Ms. Davis for getting that together. And you say you guys are meeting March the 4th?
High school is March 4th.
And I'm meeting K3 next Thursday, whatever day that is. The 25th.
22nd?
No, it's the 25th.
25th.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll move in with Mr. Godwin, Chief School Financial Report.
And so presented are the financial statements for the month of December with a balance sheet, Exhibit F1, with all cash and cash equivalents of $34 million, which have been reconciled to the corresponding bank statements, and summaries are included. F2, operations report, identifying revenues and expenditures through the month of December. Also a budget to actual comparison through the month of December for comparing to the original budget. December is the third month of 12, so comparisons will be on 3/12, or right at 25% for the year. Actual revenues in the general fund are sitting at 26.6%. Of course, we receive our property tax in through the months of November through January, so that's why local revenues are up a little bit right now, but as those taper off, that'll settle down as we go through the year. Actual expenditures in the general fund are pretty much in line with budgeted amounts at 24.4%. Fund balance at the end of December, 23.7 million for the third period. This equates to a 3.76 months reserve in the general fund. Account payable checks for the month of December, 2 million. Payroll and benefits, 5.9 million for the month of December. Sales tax, it's right about 6%, up 6% for the year, through the year. But of course, that's a very volatile revenue source, and it can go up and down, and it will throughout the year. So as we get into the budget, I'll just highlight some of the items there within the budget amendment. This will be our first budget amendment. We'll have another one in June, presented in July. Didn't really adjust any local revenues or any revenues at all in the general fund. We'll wait and see how they play out. Hopefully they'll stay prospering, and I'll address that in Amendment 2. But basically, we've added total expenditures of 2.3 million. We had a adjustment to the beginning fund balance in our general fund of 5.6 million, and that'll give us a net difference, net increase of right at 3.5 million. They'll be identifying those major changes in the general fund. Again, beginning fund balances were increased from originally the original budget. Most of that was the EFT funds, once a year money, $1.6 million that carried over from year 20 into 21. And then also there's some extended day monies that we're looking at dispersing out, possibility of dispersing out to the schools of $500,000, and some legislative funds that we are sort of custodial of right at $400,000. And local funds also beginning fund balance 2.6 increase. A list of changes in general fund revenues there, like I said, only 371, and then also expenditures. Net change in general fund, $3.5 million increase for the year. Special revenue funds, we were largely just budgeting carryover funds from our federal programs, largely, and revenues pretty much matched expenditures there, so almost a net zero, other than some local school adjustments to beginning fund balance. Debt service funds, the only thing there is budgeting the beginning fund balance of our leveraged funds with the state, right at $1.1 million. That's leveraged, and the state acts as a fiscal agent for those funds. So that was the only thing change in debt service fund. Thank goodness. Capital projects funds, we have added that state bond issue of right at $10 million. Of course, we'll be identifying projects, specific projects, to spend those monies on, but that's the major impact there, is in recognizing those revenues and expected expenditures for the capital projects fund. Expendable trust funds, no real difference there, other than some local school beginning fund balances. Any questions on finances or the budget amendment number 1 proposed?
So, sure, question on this change.
Okay, in the general fund?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Chromebook fees, $150,000, what is that?
Well, that's where we charge that, $40 fee.
Okay.
As they're issued.
Okay.
And so we, basically, we collected that, we had that as an ending balance September 20th. And now it's being budgeted, not necessarily as revenue, but as a, existing balance for, availability for us to spend.
And what will happen to that when we get back in school and everything's going good? That $150,000?
It's used to pay for repairs or anything that we had to replace, and it won't cover it all, but, Lance, you wanna speak to it?
We were benefited with some federal dollars to buy Chromebooks
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah.
So the purpose for that money was to replenish our stock.
Yeah.
Going forward, we're lucky enough this year not to have to dip into it. Like I said, it's not really enough to
Oh, yeah.
replenish enough Chromebooks, but it's gonna build up so we can next year make more use of it. So
So
we'll buy
kids,
more to replenish.
will kids pay 40 next year too?
Every year it's a $40 usage fee.
Next year?
All that
Lance
money-
had the idea, when we start talking about this, of possibly get to a place where a kid could get a Chromebook in the 9th grade and keep that Chromebook all 4 years. And at that point, after paying those fees, then they pretty much paid for it, they can take it with them, and we can use the fund to buy a new set.
That was my next question.
Yes, so right now, we did use some of the COVID money to buy old, devices, and we're actually right now taking those old devices apart and using the parts from it, so we don't have to dip into that $150,000 to fix the ones that, get broken daily. So we're gonna try to save it and build it up so that we can do plans like that to advance it to where we can get all the use out of it and then let maybe the student take it home.
Can we do that? Can we do that legally with state money? Give it to somebody?
It would be dispositioned from here. It'd be like it.
It's gonna be obsolete anyway, almost. It'll be out of date.
So if it was the senior, they could take it with them?
Right, and we would mark it off.
And you can do that? Okay.
If it's out of date, we couldn't buy a brand new one to give.
No,
it to
I
them,
know. Yeah.
Disposition list, but we can put it on the disposition list when it's out of its range of use.
Yeah, we'd have to position it to where give an age out with the student.
Okay.
And that might also give the student a little bit more pride in it to keep
Sure,
it running,
sure.
because if they're gonna get the same one every year,
Exactly.
they don't wanna tear keys up and think they're gonna get brand new next year, you're gonna get this same one back, this is yours.
If we can't do it legally, just let me know. I wanna be sure that's a year that I'm not board chairman. Mr. Melvin.
And I believe we're gonna continue the one-on-one even after
Yes, sir.
COVID, so this is, going to be a continual, fund source there.
So it's all just for the.
I just saw the fee and I thought maybe they was charging us for something. I just couldn't
And
know.
going back to it, it's not a required fee. This is if the student chooses to take them home. We have them at school for them to use, no cost to them. If they want to take that device home and use it at home, they pay $40.
So if it was to be lost, that $40 would cover the loss?
So it's just to use it.
So they'd have to pay that difference?
Our digital policy, basically states that if it's lost or damaged in a neglectful way, then the parent would have to pay for the device.
I see.
Outright.
Okay, let me ask that, if it was damaged and the parent paid you for it, they get to keep it?
If they want that damaged device.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with it, we're not doing it with it. But they don't get to keep the new one we replace it with.
That's a,
Yeah, they get, if they want the one that was damaged and beyond repair,
okay.
then they can have that.
There were some systems, that have like an insurance policy, but it's outsourced through another company, so, we didn't see, Lance researched some of those, we didn't really find one that was of value this year, because
Yeah.
they would have had to pay deductibles
That's a,
to, if there was one that was lost, and cover those fees. And that may be something we could possibly look at for research more going ahead, because when we started our digital device, policy in the summer this year.
okay.
Anybody else? Thank you, Mr. Godwin.
Now, there has also been, presented itself an opportunity for, some partial refunding of our existing debt, outstanding debt. And basically, it's, we can have it structured how we wish, but it would, basically, could reduce our debt service payment by, in the neighborhood of $30,000 a year, grand total over the term of that debt issuance, and that's the 2016 warrants of just right at $1 million, and that is net of any administrative fees for underwriters and bond counsel. So, if it looks like something that we are interested in, then I'll be glad to move further.
I think we're very interested.
Yeah. Any idea what the fees would be? You had a problem?
I do have that requested. I haven't got that information just yet. But yes, the 30,000 annual would be our net savings of those fees, so it wouldn't change that any. But I do have a request for the fee structure. Yes, sir.
Thank you, John.
We need 2046, we need to have a note burning here for everybody to get together.
I'll make sure we're here. 6.
I wouldn't be here, but I'll be real. I know I would.
Thank you, Mr. Godwin.
Did you hear Mike? He said he'd be my age. Yeah, I was his kindergarten assistant principal. I know it.
Okay.
That's all it's me.
Thank you, Mr. Godwin. This time we'll move into the superintendent's reports and action items.
Under tab 2 is amendment number 1 for the FY21 budget. I recommend your approval of this amendment as presented for submission to the State Department of Education.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Board meeting minutes are attached for your review. Under tab number 3, I recommend your approval as submitted.
Heard the recommendation. Can I have a motion? Motion.
Is this the
Sorry, go ahead, Miss Lisa.
new minutes are in the, I don't know, I think I was sent a copy of the new minutes. I just want to make sure that everybody's got theirs in there.
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Wynn has made the motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Now we'll go
All
to,
opposed?
I'm sorry.
Motion carries.
Then we'll go to the February 9th, 2021 special call board meeting minutes. They're attached for your review and consideration. Under tab number 4, I recommend your approval as submitted.
Further recommendation, can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Under tab number 5 is a list of items to be discarded or stored for sale or use at a later date. I recommend your approval to declare these items as surplus.
Further recommendation, can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries.
Under tab number 6 is the bid for the re-roof of Welborn High School classroom buildings and gymnasium. I recommend your approval to the lowest bidder, Alabama Roofing and Sheet Metal Company, for $1,476,000.
You've heard the recommendation, can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Any questions?
Question, the renovation that we did of the whole complex, when we did that, we didn't do the roof.
No, we,
We're
it
trying-
was
We're trying to cut
suggested,
back on some costs, I'm just,
yes, sir, it was suggested strongly, but y'all didn't go that way.
any damage been from the roof of the new stuff we've done?
They had one little piece of damage that turned out to be just a cylinder that was knocked over on the roof and it leaked right there in the front door in the library. But, our people fixed that and it wasn't very drastic.
Alabama Roofing's a local contractor, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that,
Never had you with that.
good. As we send things out, we've gotten into a little bit of a pickle in the past that we didn't advertise it locally. And I wanna be sure that, we do that, so.
Of course.
Yeah, any local people can have that opportunity.
We always send it out locally, sometimes they just don't respond.
Yeah, if they don't respond, it's on them. Okay, I have a second. Any more questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Attached under tab number 7 are personnel items. I recommend your approval as submitted.
You've heard the recommendation. Can I have a motion? Second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, at this time, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn. Can I have- Mr. Webb's making a motion, can I have a second?
Second.
Second, any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.